In 2003, Fidelity Investments ran an internal study of its clients. They wanted to find out which accounts had delivered the best returns over the last 10 years. The result left their analysts speechless. The best performing accounts belonged to dead people. Second place went to people who had forgotten they even had a Fidelity account. This isn't a joke. This is a real study of real investor behavior, and it raises a question that the financial industry very much does not want you to ask. What if everything you know about smart investing is exactly what's stopping you from making money? Let's start with Peter Lynch, one of the most successful fund managers in history. The Magellan Fund, under his management from 1977 to 1990, averaged 29% annually, the best long-term track record in the history of active management. Sounds like a great success story, right? But here's what Lynch discovered when he looked at his own investors. Most of them lost money. Read that again. The fund was making 29% a year. Most investors in the fund were losing money. How is that possible? They bought in after the fund had already run up and made the news. They sold when the fund was down and it felt scary. They did exactly what seemed like the smart decision at every given moment, and it systematically destroyed their returns. This is called the behavior gap, and it's not an exception. It's the rule. Here's where it gets genuinely uncomfortable. The more someone knows about markets, the more opinions they have about what should happen, and the more actively they act on those opinions. The smart investor reads that the Fed is about to raise rates. He logically concludes the market will fall. He sells part of his portfolio. The market goes up 8% over the next month. The smart investor reads that inflation is rising. He logically shifts into gold and tips. The market ignores inflation and keeps climbing. The smart investor sees that PE valuations are historically elevated. He logically sits in cash, waiting for a correction. The market goes up for another 2 years while he waits. Dalbar, a research firm that tracks real investor behavior every year, found the following. Over the last 20 years, the S&P 500 has returned about 9% annually on average. The average human investor got about 3%. That's a 6% gap every single year. On $100,000 over 20 years, that's the difference between $560,000 and $180,000. This isn't bad luck, it's systematic self-destruction through smart decisions. Okay, so who actually wins? The people who bought an index fund 20 years ago and literally did nothing. Didn't follow the news, didn't read analyst reports, didn't know what a PE ratio was, just put the money in and forgot about it. That's exactly why the dead accounts at Fidelity are performed. A dead person has no anxiety about an upcoming recession, no FOMO from Tesla headlines, no urge to lock in gains after the market is up 30%, no panic when the market drops 20%. A dead person is the perfect investor. And here's the real irony. In 2013, Vanguard published a study called Advisors Alpha that tried to quantify what a good financial advisor is actually worth. And they concluded that the most valuable thing an advisor can do for a client is stop the client from selling in a panic, not pick better stocks, not predict the next crisis, not optimize taxes, just prevent the person from selling at the exact moment when everything around them is screaming, "Sell immediately." That is the primary function of a professional advisor, not intelligence, protection from your own intelligence. Why does this happen on the neurological level? In 2005, Brian Knudsen at Stanford ran an experiment using brain MRI. He showed subjects financial news while tracking brain activity. When the market was falling, the same area of the brain that activates during physical pain lit up. When the market was rising and creating a sense of missed opportunity, the same area that activates in a hungry person looking at food lit up. Your brain was literally not designed for investing. It was designed for survival. And survival requires reacting fast to threats and grabbing opportunities fast. And that, reacting fast, grabbing fast, is exactly what destroys investment returns. The smarter the person is, the better they are at rationalizing their actions, and the more convincing their argument sounds for doing exactly what the panicking brain wants to do. The smart investor doesn't just sell in a panic. He sells while having a very convincing explanation for why this is the right call. Here's a question worth asking yourself right now. How many times in the last 5 years have you done something with your portfolio, sold, repositioned, optimized, because it felt like what a smart person should do? And how does that compare to what would have happened if you just left it alone? I'm not saying you need to be completely clueless. The basic decisions matter: diversification, regular contributions, time horizon. But once those decisions are made, the best next action is inaction. Not reading the next analyst report, not shifting into defensive assets, not trying to time when the market will turn. Just do nothing. It sounds insultingly simple, but precisely because it sounds too simple, smart people can't bring themselves to accept it. Fidelity, Dalbar, Vanguard, Stanford all reach the same conclusion from different paths. The market doesn't punish ignorance, the market punishes activity. The most expensive skill in investing isn't the ability to read balance sheets or understanding macroeconomics or access to insider research. It's the ability to do nothing when everything inside you is screaming that you need to do something right now. 10 people do this perfectly. The rest of us have to work at it. If you want to understand how markets work and the decisions that actually affect your money, subscribe. It only gets more interesting from here.